Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Se Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridhavan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी भक्तवृंद की जय. All glories to the Assembly Lord. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Today's morning class is 621 Calcutta, January 6th, 1971. That is 621 in Calcutta, January 6th, 1971.
एवं से भगवद्दूता जमदूता विभाषितम उपधार्य अतस्यान राजन सत्याहु नयको विदा. The speeches of the Jamaduta, assistants of Jamaraj, was just finished. Argument. The argument was that this man, Ajani, born of a Brahmin father, although acquired all qualifications, he was qualified Brahmin, not simply born of a Brahmin father, but qualified Brahmin, with full knowledge of Vedic instruction, nice character, very gentle and silent, and offering respect to elderly person, spiritual master, father. In this way, he was perfect Brahmin. But due to his contact with a prostitute, he lost his all good qualities. And later on, he had to earn money by hook and crook, and thus he degraded more and more, and therefore his sinful activities are now responsible for his punishment, and he shall be taken to the court of Jamaraj. That was the summary of the speech of the Jamaduta. Evam te Bhagavad-duta Jamaduta bhivastam. So, after finishing that speech, the Bhagavad-duta, so there are Bhagavad-duta also, assistant, servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are two kinds of servants, the Maya servant and Krishna servant. Nobody is master, that is illusion. Everyone is servant. Every living entity is a servant, as enunciated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiver Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. The real constitutional position of the living entity is eternal servant of Krishna. When he does not render service to Krishna under false prestige, just like somebody said, the Vaishnava religion is slave mental. Vaishnava religion is slave mental. They want to be served. But the rascals do not know that what you have gained by master mentality. You are simply servant of yourself. But they criticize that Vaishnava is slave mental. Everyone is slave. Somebody is slave of the senses and somebody is slave of Krishna. Nobody is master. That is illusion. Kamadinam kutidhana kutidha palita dullidesa. The slaves of the senses, they are following the dictation of the senses. As abominable activities they are doing, just like Rajan. He was a Brahmin. He was a slave of Narayan, a slave of Krishna. Brahman Vaishnava. Brahman means a Brahmin, qualified Brahmin means he is a Vaishnava. Tad Vishnam Paramam Padam Pashanti Sadas. Sura. Sura. Brahmin's another name is Sura. So those are Suras. Those who are demigods. They are Vaishnava. They are always ready to render service to the Supreme Personality of God. But by false prestige, when one tries to become master, Krishna Bhuliya Jeev Bhogavan. A master is supposed to be the supreme enjoyer of the establishment. But actually, nobody is the enjoyer. Krishna is the only enjoyer. Bhoktaram Jankudavasam Sarvalukumansa. He is the proprietor. So, when we forget this relationship with Krishna, that I am eternal servant of Krishna, then he becomes servant of the senses of Maya. That by becoming servant of the senses, he follows the dictation of the master senses and goes down to the darkest region of illusion and becomes subjected to the punishment of Jamara. This is the so intelligent person that will find this statement of a Brahmin that he says, my dear Lord, I was so long servant of my senses and I followed their dictation even though it was very, very abominable. Sometimes our conscience beats, don't do this. But due to our lust and greediness, we do something which is abominable. Krishna is there within our heart. He also gives sometimes dictation, don't do this. Still we do. The kamadinam pratidhana pratidha palita durnidesa. If the master says something, you do it. If it is good, that's all right. But if it is bad, even though I have to do because I have accepted the servitude, Oh, that is very erroneous. There is Shudra. According to Vedic principle, the Shudras, Shudra Karma Sabhavati. The Shudras are meant for obeying the orders of the master. So sometimes it happens the master says, you do this, you do that, which is not very good. The servant has to act. So the intelligent Brahmin says, my dear Lord, I have served the senses in so many ways, even though I am abominable. But I find still they are not satisfied. And neither the senses are very kind to me. Because I have served so faithfully, still they are dictating and I am doing. This is my position. So now I have got good sense that if I am destined to serve, then why not Krishna? Why shall I serve the senses? If my position is to serve, and don't do that. If my position is to serve, and by serving the senses I am going to the darkest regions of darkness, why shall I serve the senses? The Bhagavad Dutta. The Bhagavad Dutta means they are in right constitutional position. So you all become Bhagavad Dutta. Bhagavad Dutta, messenger of God. That is perfection of life. Otherwise, you shall be obliged to become the servant of the senses. Godas and Goswami. The Bhagavad Duttas are Goswami. And the servants of the senses are Godas. Unfortunately, the Godasas are claiming to be Goswami. That is the cause of fall down of Indian Vedic civilization. One has to become Goswami. Goswami means refuse to follow the dictation of the senses. Simply, he has to follow the dictation of the Supreme Personality of God. That dictation comes through the parampara system. Krishna dictated Arjuna, Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam saranam bhajo. If you follow Arjuna, then you in directly contact with Krishna. There is no difficulty. The dictation comes through disciplic succession. Now, Krishna is teaching to his disciple Arjuna. Arjuna accepted. Shishya seham. Just now I become your disciple. Shishya means one who voluntarily accepts the ruling of a spiritual master. He is called Shishya. Nobody wants to follow the dictation of others. That is another independent nature of the living entity. But when one voluntarily agrees to serve the dictation of the spiritual master, means to follow the dictation of Krishna. Acharya man vijana. Krishna says, Acharya is myself. Navamanneta kariti, never disobey. Namastu buddhya suyeta. Do not think him as ordinary person and become envious of his position. Then there is fall down. Acharya man vijana. Navamanneta kariti. Namastu buddhya suyeta. So, this dictation of Krishna comes through the disciplic succession. And if we follow the instruction of Acharya or spiritual master, then we are directly following the orders of Krishna, and thus I become a Bhagavad Dutta. Now I am the Dutta or the followers of the dictation of my senses. And one who is Bhagavad Gita, he is called Goswami. Just like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. Those life is dedicated to follow the dictation of Krishna, they are Goswami. Goswami is not a caste title, just like it has become in India. Goswami, Rupa Goswami, was a minister. He was rejected by the Brahmin society. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made him Goswami. He is the original Goswami. Why? Because he gave up the dictation of Navarsa, but he followed the dictation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore he became Goswami. Prabhupada. He became Prabhupada. Prabhupada means the title or the respect which is given to the Supreme Personality of God. That is called Prabhu means master, and Pada means Marjada, or the respect or the distinction. So, Bhagavad Gita, those who are strictly following the dictation of Krishna under strict disciplinary chain of disciplic succession, he is Krishna's representative and he should be given all the respect. Sakshadharitena samasta shastra. That is the verdict of all shastras, and those who are actually Vaishnava, they follow these instructions. एवं ते भगवद्दूता जमदूता विभाषितम उपधार्य अथान राजन प्रत्याहु नयकोविदा. Nayakobida. Nayakobida means Nayanipura. Bhagavad Gita, those who are Goswamis, they place everything with Naya or logic. Their instructions are not blind dogmatic. Nayakobida. Everything what is said by Krishna or his representative, they are not dogmas. Those who are not representative of Krishna, they will say simply dogma. Just like in every religion there is a dogma. But in Bhagavad religion, Bhagavad Dharma, there is no dogma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Bhagavad Dharma is Chaitanya Charitamrita author. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says therefore that Chaitanya Dayar Katha Karaho Vichar. Vichar means you just try to understand the gift of Lord Chaitanya by logic. Vichar. Don't follow blindly. Following blindly something, that's not good. That will not stay. But one should take everything with logic. But the servants of God, they put everything in logic. Chaitanya Dayar Katha Karaho Vichar. If you study the Chaitanya philosophy with logic and argument, don't go by sentiment. The so-called missionary, they're simply bogus propaganda without any logic. Without any logic. Just like some missionary people are propagating a man to become God. How a man can become God? There must be evidences how a God incarnate. Not that somebody by worshipping a demigod becomes a God. So many false propaganda is going on. That is not logical at all. So one should be intelligent to understand the philosophy of Krishna, or philosophy of Lord Chaitanya with logic and argument. Don't follow blindly. But once you accept you cannot argue. You have to accept blindly. But before accepting, you take to logic. But when you accept, then go back, then that is fall down. Nayako vida, Vishnu Duta Uchu, Oho Kastam, Dharmadisham Adharmang Sprisate Sabha, Jatra Dandesu Apapesu Danda Jayadhriyate Vritha. Now, he is indicating that if the court is contaminated, court, everyone goes to the court to receive justice. But if the court is itself polluted, then how people will live? That has become the practice in the Kali Yuga. Anadhena Nayarahitam. In Kali Yuga, if you have no money, then you will not be able to get justice. Anadhena Nayarahitam. As soon as you go to the court, immediately you will have to appoint a pleader and pay him the 25 rupees, and then stamp duty, this and that, so many things, then bribe. Then bribe. You give bribe to this man, you give bribe to that man. Suppose he actually wants some money from somebody, just second money is not paying, or something else. So you have to push good money after bad money. The money which is due from others is not paying, that has become a bad money. Good money means which is in your hand, that is good money. And if you are simply speculating that I shall get this money from that person, I shall get this money from, that is bad money. So there is an English proverb, perhaps you know, to push good money after bad money. So therefore, sometimes intelligent persons, they do not go to the court because he knows that money which is not being paid, before entering into agreement, you should be very clever so that your money may not be bad money which you are advancing. But if somehow or other it has become bad money, don't try to push good money. Let that bad money go to hell. So better nowadays not to go to the court as far as possible. But you should deal with people in such a way, just like I was advising you, just find out a respectable transporter, because the time is very bad. Otherwise, it will become a bad money. You go a cheap thing that he will carry my goods free, but he will throw it away, somebody will take away, then your whole profit is gone. So you should be very careful. And if you have to go to court, then it is still more bad. So we have to be very careful. The age is very bad. The Kali Yuga, you are experiencing, you have to simply take shelter of Krishna and always cry, Krishna, 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 He, Krishna, 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 He, Krishna, 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 Rakshama, Krishna, 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 Pahima, Krishna Kesava, Krishna Kesava, Krishna Kesava, Rakshama, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Pahima, like that. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us. The time is very dangerous, and still in this dangerous time, just like in epidemic condition where every people is being contaminated and dying, still the doctors appointed by the government, they have to go into the epidemic area and try to treat the person and save them. Our duty is like that. The whole atmosphere is epidemic. whole atmosphere, this Kali Yuga. And it's still, by the superior orders, we have to preach this Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, our only shelter is Krishna. Krishna, 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 that's Rama. Very dangerous belief. That foolish people, they are thinking that we are very happy and we are very safe. But nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. So we have to deal with persons very carefully, and at the same time we have to push our missionary activities. Aho katsang dharma disham, so they are saying dharma disham sabham, sabham adharma disham. If in the court of justice, these false things, bribing, without money nobody can get justice, these things happen, it becomes very troublesome. Aho kastam dharma disham adharma sprisate sabham jatra dandesu apapesu danda masti yati vritha. Sadahu jatra sabhayam vaidharma drighi tesham tan sabha. If the people who are administering justice, they become easily impact of how troublesome situation is. This is the first acclamation. Then it is prajanang pitaro jita shastara sadhava sama jadi satesu vaisammam kanjanti saranam praja. The citizens, just like innocent children, and the government is to be supposed as the father. So small children, they are completely dependent on father. Full faith. My father is there, my mother is there. And if the father and mother become contaminated, then where is the position of the children? If the whole government is polluted, then what is the position of the citizen? Just see. There is so-called government, millions of rupees they are spending and taking salary, government house, these. But the praja, they have no security for their life. Just see the position. So that is said here. Prajanam pitaru jita shastara sadhava sama. How impartial they should be, how competent they should be to give protection to the citizens, and if they are polluted, if they are incapable, and such government is there, then it is just like Jadishka tesu vaisammam pamjati saranam praja. Then what is the condition of the citizens? Where they will go for protection? That is the condition. Now, this is called Kali Yuga. They are not a shelter. Now these people are so uncertain of their life and property. Still they cannot go to the but it will happen in this age. Athinna daradavina gachanti girikana. Due to this rascal government, people will be so much embarrassed that athinna daradavina. They will be separated from their wives, children and money, and they will go to the forest. This will happen. They will go to the forest. Nobody wants to leave the company of wives, children and property, but people will be forced, just like we have seen already in the time of partition, the Muslims and Hindus. The Hindus are going away, and the Muslims are also going, and nobody is happy. But the partition was made, and this was accepted as India's independence. This is called Maya. They are going to be more dependent, more and more, and still it was accepted as independence. Jad jadacharati sriyan pitarastam tadihate sajat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartat. If the heads of the society, whatever they do, general people follow them. Jada jada charati sriyan. Sriyan means the leading personality. Jad jada charati sriyan itarastat tadihate, and the general public, they follow them. Sajat pramanam kudute, what the leaders accept as gold, the general public, they also accept so. Sajat pramanam lokas tadanuvartati. Pita, pitrivat palaka. Now here, the government or the king is compared with the father. That is the position of father. Just like a father will never tolerate the killing of his child before him. He will give his own life. He will try to attack that person who has killed his child and give his own life. I do not like to live. That is the position of government. But they are saying, this is correct. Sadat pramanam krute lokas tadanuvartate jasyanka sirayadhaya lokas apiti nidvitaha sayang dharma dharmam va nahi vida jathapasu. Just like if you put your head on some friend's lap and you sleep very nicely without any care, but the man on whose lap you are putting your head, if he is ungrateful, he is not faithful, he wants to cut your throat, then what is your position? This is very, so it is very nice discussion delivered by the Bhagavad Gita. These are the speeches of the Bhagavad Gita, not of the Maya's Gita. Maya's Gita will say, this is all right. This is all right. But this is the speech of the Bhagavad Gita. Try to understand. Thank you very much. The forest is all here. Just to take shelter to save their life. Because one's own life is first consideration. Self-preservation is the first last need. So when there is danger, people will give up their wife and property and go. Just like people are going. Okay. This will happen. In European country also, when there is war, so many refugees. And I have got, and I have heard one Mr. Macpherson, an English man, he was known to me, he was coming to my shop. He stated that in the First World War, he was in the war service, and some Belgian refugees came to France because Marshal Foch, he was in charge of that area, and when he was informed that so many refugees, mostly women and children, they have come, so he becomes so much disturbed. So where shall I give them shelter in this warfare? So the advice was to blow them. Finish. So they were blown out. This is practical, and warfare such things happen. Who is going to take responsibility for so many women and children because they were blown up? They came to take shelter, but they were blown up. Such things happen in the world. It's just like in your country, the real policy is to continue this white man means they cannot manage this city, and they are trying to send them to white man and kill them. That's all. That is the policy. They cannot manage, they cannot make them sane, and in normal conditions they have no such policy, neither they do know it. So what to do? They cannot manage. Therefore they are confused. usual. Do you think? Huh? What do you think? This is my suggestion. Unwanted person, let them be killed. Just like this martial force is unwanted refugee slogan. And killing and blowing, this is very easy thing for the animal eater, for the maintenance of slaughterhouse. I hear that these Naxals are taken to slaughterhouse to learn how to kill. Do you know that? Somebody was telling. Yes, your husband was telling. That these Naxalites are taken to the slaughterhouse and they are taught how to kill. Therefore they do not care. Immediately beaten by rods and actually fell down with just like slaughterhouse. They are taught. And the military men, they are also taught like that, to become cruel. A very horrible position on this Kali-Yuga. Krishna Nam Karo Bhai Arsam, we say, you take shelter of Krishna, otherwise so many things. So stop it.
Hare Krishna. Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we don't have so much time, and it was quite a comprehensive lecture there. Prabhupada covered many points, but we'll try to cover some salient features from it. So this is from Canto 6, Chapter 2, verse 1 to 5, and it's a pastime of Ajamil. And, with his experience with the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamadutas specifically here. So, Prabhupada starts off with the Yamadutas. They were actually speaking, and, the assistants of the Yamadutas, of the Yamaraj, who are the Yamadutas, and they were arguing. And what were they arguing about? Any ideas? So, yes, Prajana Prabhu?
The confusion was between the two. They had a boss, Yamaraj, but also there's another boss that's come into the picture now. And, they're just confused by the situation. and they wanted clarification then from, and I think their master spirit, the Yamaraj, gave it.
Yeah, so here they're also discussing how Ajamil, he was born as a perfect Brahmana, and he had all the qualities. And Prabhupada very much emphasizes that he wasn't simply born of a Brahmana family, but he had the Brahminical characteristics which made him a Brahmana. So it's interesting that he mentions qualities not just hereditary, because we know that there's sometimes discrepancy in the wider society about Varna and our qualities, and whether it's actually due to our family or whether it's due to our kind of qualities. But Prabhupada emphasizing its qualities, that is what's important here. Prabhupada also goes on to mention how he lost all his qualities due to contact with the prostitute. And then he ended up having to earn money by hook or by crook, compromising his principles. So, from this, obviously, Prabhupada is making the point that association corrupt even those most perfect Brahmanas. If you're not careful in association, you cannot rest on your good character, and that can also degrade as well. Okay, then Prabhupada goes on to say that in this life, there are two kinds of servants. Do you know what the servants are? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Servants are Maya servants and Krishna servants. No one is actually a master. Even people think that they're master, it's actually just an illusion. And Prabhupada mentions that verse from Madhya Lila, Jivara Sharupai Nitya Krishna Das, right? That the real constitutional position is to be the eternal servant of Krishna. We have to serve someone. Prabhupada then goes on to mention how everyone is a slave, whether we like it or not. So better to be a slave of Krishna than being a slave of your senses. It's interesting you use the word slave, because in our society, the word slave has a bit of a negative connotation, isn't it? Like, it's related to oppression, things like that. But Prabhupada is using it in a very objective sense. He's not like putting any of the emotions on it. He's just being very clear that, look, we are all slaves, servants. So better to be a servant, a Vaishnav, so you can be a servant of what is true, what is right. And then Prabhupada also then goes on to mention the difference between, who are those who are suras, and they are actually demigods, the ones who are always ready to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he mentions about, by false prestige, one who tries to become a master, right? Does anyone know what Prabhupada elaborates on here? When one tries to become a master, what happens? What's the consequence for them? They become servant of Maya, okay. And then what happens? Where do they go? So Prabhupada says that by becoming servant of the senses, he follows the dictation of the master senses and goes down to the darkest region of illusion, and then becomes subjected to the punishment of Yamaraj. So, in other words, we have to serve someone, so why let it be Maya? Because look at the consequences of that. And of course, intelligent people, they know that they have to follow Krishna and Krishna's will and Krishna's instructions within the heart, because otherwise, if you disobey Paramatma and it leads to uncontrolled senses, then you'll end up getting more and more, reactions and things like that from it. Prabhupada also mentions actually that, that otherwise, what happens if you do serve the wrong master? The point is that the master may actually end up getting you to do bad things, but because you've accepted their servitude, you will end up having to do abominable things. So he says that a Sudra has to obey the orders of the master, but if the master says you do this, you do that, but it's not very good, but the servant is forced to act. So if you serve the wrong master, then it will lead to dissatisfaction. The master themselves will incur bad karma, you will also incur bad karma as well. Right? And also on top of that, the senses will not be satisfied. Prabhupada then goes on to say about the Goswamis and Godas. And anyone knows what he says about Goswami and Godas and how that's led to the fall down of Vedic civilization? Yes, Zoomingly. Yes, the Godases are posing themselves as Goswamis, and because of this, that is the cause of the fall down of Indian Vedic civilization. So one has to be a Goswami. And how does Prabhupada describe what a Goswami is? Exactly. A Goswami means refuse to follow the dictation of the senses. So when we're not following properly, then it leads to the weakening of society and, of course, lack of spiritual fiber. Okay, then Prabhupada goes on to talk about we have to follow dictation through the parampara system. How this Prabhupada talks about Shishyastaham. Arjuna accepted Shishyastaham, now become your disciple. So the importance of succession is very, very important, even though Prabhupada then says that no one wants to follow the dictation of others, and that is another independent nature of the living entity. So emphasizing our rebellious, independent spirit. Any other thoughts? Any other points before we carry on? For anyone? Yep.
Is this independent spirit like natural to us, or is it like a perversion of what's actually in the spiritual world?
Yeah, it's a perversion of our free will. So we have a free will in the spiritual world, which is because of that free will that we can love Krishna, because love can only come from free will. But when it gets perverted, we want to try and independently enjoy separate from Krishna and be lords and masters ourselves. So therefore, this material manifestation is created for us to kind of try and satisfy those desires, even though it's a risky proposition, because if we try to satisfy desires here, then, as Prabhupada is making clear, we'll end up sinking deeper and deeper, and going more and deeper into darkest regions. So we have free will. Better to use it for Krishna instead of trying to use it independently. But the choice, we always have that choice, though. Yeah. And then Prabhupada obviously again emphasizes the whole purpose of what is actually Goswami. So the real understanding of what is of these various titles. Okay, let's carry on. Prabhupada, he does actually mention, interesting here though, that what does Prabhupada say about the missionaries and their propaganda? The modern day missionaries. No, so Bhagavad Gitas are basically those who are following properly, who are following the Shastra, the following Krishna's orders. Whereas the so-called missionaries, he actually says they're simply bogus propaganda without any logic. Just like apparently some missionary people are propagating a man to become God. How can a man become God, right? There must be evidence of who is God and how he incarnates. So there's so many false propaganda. So what does Prabhupada say we should do when we follow our spiritual path? What should we be using? Yes, Karan? That's right, vichar, right? Prabhupada mentions the word vichar here. We have to use logic and reason, not that we just follow blindly. But Prabhupada does mention, though, that once you can use your logic and argument and vichar to find out what is the right path to follow. Once you've accepted a path, though, then what should be our mood? Yes, Harsh? Yeah, not like dither again and try and use a mental speculation. So the idea is that when we, before we come to Krishna consciousness, we may have done a lot of investigation into different philosophies and this and that, and then we made that decision to come here. But if you want to get the most out of this process, you have to follow it with faith and properly. Otherwise, if you're whilst here and still kind of looking there and there, you're not going to get any benefit from that. Yeah. Okay. Then Prabhupada kind of takes on a kind of sociological level here. I'll finish soon. He talks about how that nowadays people are not following things, and so this corruption, it manifests on the social level. And what aspect of society does he start off with by talking about? No. As in like a social institution. The court. Yeah, the court. It says everyone gets to court to get justice, but there is no justice getting that is being had there, right? And it's interesting because nowadays it's based on money. If you've got money, then you can get justice. If you don't, then you can't. And we know that obviously from Srimad Bhagavatam, when Kali Yuga started, that Kali stays where wealth is hoarded. So therefore wealth then corrupts everything. So we can see how wealth is now corrupting the justice system, the education system, the healthcare system. It's all happening, isn't it? Okay, then he talks about good money and bad money. And Prabhupada talks quite a bit about this. Any thoughts on this? What does Prabhupada mean by good money and bad money? Yeah, bad money is basically based on like promises and pledges and things like that. And Prabhupada is very clear that, nowadays, oh yeah, I'm going to get this money from this person, this money. Don't rely on that. Actually reminded me, Bhaktivedanta Manor once made a quote saying that there are only two guarantees in this world, money in hand and the holy names. So if you don't have money in hand, then it's not worthwhile. I mean, if you want to go even deeper, money itself is also not a very good measure of wealth because it's also a pledge. A note, is a pledge. In the olden days, before Kali Yuga, wealth was measured in terms of land, gold, cows, grains, tangible assets, which you can rely on, whereas money can go and also money that's based on sort of promises and this fund or that fund is very precarious. We can see that in a modern society with all the financial crashes that happen from time to time, like the Wall Street crash, and then recently we had this Bernie Madoff, the Ponzi scheme and all that kind of stuff, right? These things happen because it's bad money. Don't rely on it. Okay, so then Prabhupada says we have to be very careful. We have to simply take shelter of Krishna and always cry. Maybe we can do this together. What does Prabhupada say we have to cry? Krishna, 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 Krishna hai. Krishna, 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 Krishna hai. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Raksha Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Pahi Mam. So like this, Prabhupada says we have to be very careful. We take shelter of the holy names, and he compares us to doctors, right? That in an epidemic, that even though it's a dangerous time, we ourselves can be risk of getting contaminated, but we still need to go out there and obviously help people to come to Krishna. Okay, I'm conscious of the time that Prabhupada did talk a bit more about the social things, about how the protectors in this age, they become robbers. The leaders, they become robbers. But let's maybe pause there now, and then talks about also complete breakdown of family structure, how people will be forced to leave their families to go and, take refuge in the mountains and things like that. It's going to be very a hard situation to be in because of the irresponsibility of leaders. So therefore, all the more reason for us to take shelter, obviously, of Krishna's names. But let's maybe adjourn for today. Is there any last thoughts, comments from anyone? Otherwise, we can break for prasadam. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.
His Grace Niskinchana Chaitanya Prabhu ki.